Hi everyone, Amy here with Amy Swears, and today I'm going to make some colorful leaves and emboss and die cut and make a couple pretty cards. Now I'm going to take these waffle flower blending brushes on their maiden voyage. I have a die set, some inks from 𝘄𝗄𝘄𝗄, and here is what we're going to make today. So no reinventing the wheel here. I'm just anxious to get into some of these products that have been sitting in my crafty stash, like these leaves from Paper Rose I've had for a while. But I felt like getting them out and using my new blending brushes and some gorgeous inks from 𝘄𝗄𝘄𝗄 and making a couple cards. So I did end up using a metal shim for this die. It may or may not be required. My plates and my Spellbinders Platinum 6 are pretty warped, so I did end up needing to use a metal shim just because these are so very detailed. Now I'm going to pull out a smattering of inks from 𝘄𝗄𝘄𝗄. And I'm not entirely sure which direction I'm going to go. I just want to play with some of these colors and put them down on the die cuts with my new blending brushes and see where it goes from there. So I'm kind of pairing up ones that I think will work well together. Here I decided to take my bracelet off because it was kind of getting in the way. But these blending brushes have two sides. They're angled on the end, and I just used those just because I wanted to try them, not because I had to kind of get into little fiddly nooks and crannies, but I just wanted to give them a go. And my thought process with these is to have kind of one side for a darker of the color family and the other side for a lighter. Now I'm struggling a little bit here because I just recently re-inked all of my ink pads, so they are extremely juicy, like probably a little bit too juicy if I'm honest. So that's where I'm struggling a little bit here, to just not have too much ink. But you can see the colors are coming down very saturated, very rich and dark, and that's again just because I re-inked. So I'm using I think it's lemongrass and hot tub on this one, and it creates a really pretty green in the center where it overlaps. Now here I'm going to use sage and then I think queen for a day. So these aren't two colors that are analogous on the color wheel. These are colors that would usually not really get along, but I don't really care because they're pretty muted, and I just want the two colors on the leaf. So it doesn't really matter if they don't make a really pretty blend in the center. I just really wanted to have these two colors together. So again, I'm using the little blending brushes, coming in really, really dark and saturated. Now this one I think is pink champagne. And then I can't remember the other color. Hopefully I'll be able to see it and tell you in a moment. But again, you can see it is just really, really juicy. This is sangria, I think is the second color. So these work well together just because they're both pinks, so they'll kind of blend nicely together. So lighter on the top, darker on the bottom. And I'm just trying to kind of get off some excess on that microfiber. Now I have two 3D embossing folders. I will link everything that I used in the video description box below. That plaster one is a 𝘁𝗵𝗆 collab with Spellbinders, and it is amazing. I did die cut these panels just so they had kind of a nice stitched edge. Now this is Moda Scraps, I think. Again, I'll link everything in the video description box below. And I'm using my pokey tool from my friend Judy. Everybody asks about these. Sadly, she doesn't sell them. She's not a business. She just makes them because she's awesome and she sends them to me. But I am going to wet the paper with a little mist of water. That's 120-pound accent opaque. And you want to do your die cutting first. So if you're going to die cut and emboss, do your die cutting first and then your embossing so that you don't squish all your embossing back down when you run it through your die cutting machine. So I have the two panels ready to go. I'm just going to leave them white. I want that crisp white negative space for the eye to land on, but it still has all that texture from the embossing and then the cool detailed edges from the die cuts. Now I decided to do the one on its own and the two together. I wasn't sure initially how I wanted to do it, but I felt like the lighter colors of the teal and yellow one didn't really match as well with the other two, so I kept the really dark, rich color ones together and then the lighter one on its own, and I just picked which background I felt worked better. Now, typically I would just go right ink to paper while creating kind of the border on my card base, but I knew these were way too juicy, so I decided to just do some messy ink blending. Now, it looks a hot mess, but I promise it doesn't matter once it gets underneath that little die cut edge. It's just going to be a nice little pop of color from the background. So I think I did still, even which is blending this way, I think I still got some on the inside of the card base somehow on the yellow one. So I did have to trim that down a little bit. I'll show you that in a moment. But typically when my ink pads aren't as juicy, I'm able to just go right ink to paper and just swipe it. And then that's a lot quicker. So I got some smudges in the center, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be colored by that panel. Now here you can see I'm going ink to paper, and yeah, I definitely got some on the inside. Even though I have it sandwiched in that scrap paper, it still seeped through. That's because my ink pads are just so very juicy. Now this is 1-inch wide foam tape from scrapbook.com. It's 2mm thick. I've been on a kick lately with the 1mm thick, but this is actually 2mm, so this is going to give it a little bit more height and dimension. And I'm just going to remove the backers and place that down right on the card base, and then you'll see just that coordinating border just a little bit around the edge of that white panel, and that will coordinate and match beautifully with the leaves. Now I'm showing you, this is how I'm going to apply some glue. I'm just going to put some down on the scratch pad of paper, and I actually have just a makeup sponge here, and I'm just going to dab that all on the back. So I've been doing this lately with little fiddly die cuts, just because y'all know I don't like the oozage and I don't want too much glue on it, but I need to make sure it gets in all the little spots. So this is how I've been doing it lately, and I'm going to use a nice heavy block to kind of let that glue cure. Now I'm going to shop my sentiments. I have all these boxes. These are from Tailored Expressions, though these particular stamps I think are Ellen Hudson. They might be retired. If they're still available, I will link them below, but you're probably wondering why I'm pulling out white ones. They're actually white heat embossed or clear heat embossed on white cardstock so that I can custom color them, which I'm going to do in a moment. So you can't really see the sentiment yet, but like magic, in a moment you'll be able to. So I'm just going to trim them down. Some of them actually have 2 sentiments on one strip, so I'm just trimming off the sentiment that I want, and then I'm going to put them down back on my sticky mat, and I'm just going to go ink to paper, and you're going to see the magic that is embossed resist. So when you emboss something, it will resist the ink, and then like magic, your sentiment appears, and you have custom colored sentiment strips. So this is a fun way. If you batch things in advance, you just wipe off the excess that's sitting on top, and there you go, custom strips. So this is a fun way to really kind of have things ready to go, and you can custom color them on demand so that they perfectly match your cards. Now to finish them off, I'm just going to pull out some card bling. This is from a Colorful Life Designs. I didn't end up using the same color for both actually. I'll be able to tell you in a moment what the color is. It's one of the chartreuse. It's satin matte dark chartreuse, and it worked for both cards. So I put them down in odd numbers and a little kind of smattering across the front, and that's going to finish the cards. So like I said, I'll link everything in the video description box below. If you follow my links, it's no additional cost to you. It just helps me out and helps me keep creating this content for you. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.